American President Donald Trump shocked many today by admitting that he did in fact discuss the topic of Taiwan with Xi Jinping. In particular, the American president discussed with the Chinese leader the issue of US arms sales to Taiwan. It even sounds wild, and that's why conspiracy theories have already emerged claiming that Trump is allegedly giving up Taiwan to China in exchange for economic and trade deals. I want to address this issue as honestly as possible and without speculation, because some media headlines are already shouting that Trump is giving up Taiwan. But the truth, as always, is much more complicated, so let's look at the facts and break everything down step by step. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this episode, and please leave any comment under this video. This really helps a lot with promoting content on YouTube, and I would be very grateful to you for that, so that as many viewers as possible can see these episodes. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel Peichi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, let's start with what actually happened during the summit on the topic of Taiwan. Xi Jinping stated at the very beginning of the talks that Taiwan is the most important issue in US-China relations. Next, I'll give you the full quote. The Taiwan issue is the most important topic in China-US relations. If this issue is handled properly, bilateral relations can generally remain stable. If the approach is wrong, there could be a clash or even a conflict between the two countries, which would put all China-US relations in an extremely dangerous position. Taiwan independence is fundamentally incompatible with peace in the Taiwan Strait. At the same time, peace in the Taiwan Strait is the biggest point of contact between China and the US. End of quote. Yes, you heard that right. Basically, this is an open threat of war if the US takes the wrong position on Taiwan. Let me emphasize again, Xi Jinping is saying this directly to Donald Trump's face. He says, listen, if you take the wrong position, we'll go to war. What did Trump reply? Publicly, nothing specific at all. There was a funny situation. During a press conference, journalists asked Donald Trump several times whether he had discussed Taiwan with Xi Jinping. But Trump pretended not to hear and just stayed silent in response. He just stood there with a stone face like, I can't hear you. His team emphasized that no new commitments regarding Taiwan had been made. In the official White House summary, Taiwan isn't mentioned at all. And for the record, this means one thing. The parties did not reach an agreement. Actually, this is good news for Taipei because the status quo remains. But there is something that happened before the summit. It started before the summit, and the concerns were justified. And this is much more concerning. Before flying to Beijing, Trump told journalists that he was going to discuss with Xi Jinping the sale of weapons to Taiwan, and this is unprecedented. Because no American president before him had ever publicly announced that he would consult with Beijing on the issue of military supplies to Taipei. It's as if an American president said, listen, I'm going to call and discuss with Vladimir Putin whether we should sell weapons to Ukraine. Well, that sounds downright crazy. And after meeting with Xi Jinping, Trump finally admitted that yes, he did discuss this topic behind closed doors. At stake is a package of arms deals with Taiwan worth $14 billion. Even before leaving Washington, Trump put this package on hold. Officially, he didn't cancel it, but he didn't move it forward either, and that's exactly what's making Taipei nervous. So, not words, but a lack of action. There's another not-so-obvious negative outcome of the talks that directly concerns Taiwan. It's microchips. The US agreed to supply powerful NVIDIA graphics cards to China. This is a partial lifting of export restrictions on semiconductors. After all, chips are both civilian and military technology. The restrictions were imposed precisely because China could use these advanced chips for military purposes, including in the development of systems that would be used in the event of military action near Taiwan. Some restrictions have been lifted, allowing China greater access to Western technologies. And now experts are observing the market's reaction to the summit between Trump and Xi Jinping. And here an interesting development has emerged. Shares of Boeing suddenly dropped by 4%, although it would seem there were reasons for the stock to rise. Why is that? Xi Jinping and Donald Trump agreed that China would purchase as many as 200 Boeing airplanes from the United States of America. 200. It would seem like a lot. But it turned out that before the summit, they were negotiating for 500. So, Boeing was expecting an order for 500 airplanes, but they got 200 as a result. Their stock dropped. Meanwhile, Nvidia's stock, on the contrary, went up. Because the chip restrictions were lifted, this is a direct benefit for the company. So, business won, but security is now in question. As a result, we have Donald Trump's strategic paradox. Almost every force shaping US-China relations is pulling them in different directions. Trump wants to trade with China, but China is the main strategic rival of the US. Trump wants China's help with Iran, but China buys Iranian oil. Trump wants to keep allies in Asia, but Taipei and Tokyo are now watching the summit with growing concern. In the end, experts are confident that during the negotiations, Trump's concession may have been a tacit agreement not to push forward the next planned major arms sale package to Taiwan. That would send a huge negative signal to Taipei. That's exactly what's happening. Trump didn't announce the cancellation of this arms package, but he didn't move it forward either. As he himself stated, he discussed this arms package for Taiwan with someone who is, of course, against it, Xi Jinping. And that's all for now. It's all just murky right now. So, did Donald Trump give up Taiwan to China? Well, legally, of course not. There are no written commitments, no official concessions, and so on. The official US position on one China hasn't changed. But in reality, Taipei's room to maneuver has narrowed. The arms package is on hold. Chips will still go to China, and that's bad. Trump publicly discussed arms supplies to Taiwan with Beijing. All this is happening as American military stockpiles are depleted by the war with Iran, and Chinese military spending reaches record highs. And at the end of the visit, the United States Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, made a very telling statement that is really concerning. Quote, "A high-level meeting between the US and China would not be complete without discussing the Taiwan issue. I'm sure we'll hear more from Trump in the coming days." President Trump understands the essence of the problem and realizes the delicacy of the situation. Anyone who claims otherwise simply doesn't understand Donald Trump's negotiation style. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with a donation of any amount or a paid membership using the links and details in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.